Recipe is your host, Miss Bailey Thurman.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Cooking with BAE. This week we are going to talk about a holiday dish. It was Thanksgiving a few weeks ago, and in the upcoming weeks we have Christmas and we also have New Year's. So this is for chocolate lovers. It's also a really easy recipe. So let's get started. We will be making a brownie cookie Oreo dish. So I buy the Betty Crocker brownie mix. It's really easy. You can make your own, but I don't got time for that, so I just do that. So this is what it'll look like, and then you will have your vegetable oil, and it calls for half a cup, so we're gonna do that right now. Okay, we're gonna stick that in there, and then it is also 3 tablespoons of water, and make sure you don't use teaspoons because I have done that before and it does not turn out well. It's very oily without a lot of water. So make sure you get it all right. Okay, so now that we have the vegetable oil and the water, we will start mixing after I crack these eggs. Make sure that you do not get any shells in this because you don't want it crunchy. Yes, you want it crunchy for the Oreos, but you don't want to have eggshells, and that would be really embarrassing if you brought this to a party and someone found an eggshell in your dessert. So now we're going to just kind of, if you can see this, you're just gonna get all the eggs mashed and then just start mixing. And something that my grandma told me when I was younger is that, something her grandma told her too, that you want to mix at least like 30 times, like after you get all the powder, because that will avoid all the clumps and make it sure it's all smooth. So once all of the powder is all mixed together, you just want to go 30 times. And honestly, my arms do get tired doing this, so sometimes I will switch. But you just want to go all different directions and make sure that all the clumps are gone. Make sure like sometimes if you tilt it, you'll have to get the bottom because there's sometimes brownie batter at the bottom, the powder. It helps if you hold it too and get all the edges. So we're just gonna keep mixing it. Okay. And something that I do sometimes if I want to be extra and have more chocolate, I do add these chocolate chip cookies, or not cookies, chips to it, but that's just if I am in a chocolatey mood. Okay, so now, since that is all mixed up, I like to use the coconut oil pan, and this is a 8 by 8, I believe. It might be a little bit shorter from all the round edges. So I'm just going to hold it and spray, and this one is actually going out, but make sure you get the sides too. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for a second while I keep mixing this. All right, so now, and you want to make sure you use a whisk also. Oh, it's getting everywhere. Because it is like the easiest thing. I mean, you can use a mixer, but sometimes it gets too soft, especially for brownies. Okay, so now we are going to get, I'll use red since it's like Christmas time. Okay, so this is like the best thing to use when you are pouring your batter into a pan, just because this won't get all this stuff. So you just want, I kind of just go, well, wait, not yet, JK. We're gonna not do that because that is not what you're supposed to do. You're gonna get the cookie dough first, because I've done that before also, and it just turns out a mess. Okay, so I actually pre-bought this, but you can make your own. It's just all the recipes you can do the bread. Okay, so now we're just gonna mash it up a little bit, and you want it to get room temperature just because if it's like too cold, it won't work. Last night when I was doing this, practicing, oh, it's over.
Hi, sis.
Yeah.
You got any deodorant? I don't care if it's girly.
Here.
This doesn't smell girly.
Yeah, it's clean smell deodorant for all genders.
Mmm.
Hi, and we're back. So now you're just going to start putting the cookie dough on the bottom, and you just want to, honestly, just kind of, I would get a lot because that is like your base layer, and you're just going to mash it around, and this has been sat out for a long time, so it is a little bit more mushier, but I'm going to go ahead and use all of this. So you just want to make sure you get all the corners really well, just so the corners are like, you don't want them to be super thin because then it won't make a huge, it just will be kind of lopsided. So you're just going to mash it and keep mashing. All right, so I'm going to get the last little few scrapes in here. And then again, what I do sometimes is go like with your thumbs around the edges. It helps. And you can also get just like a spoon or something, and you can just mash the bottom. All right, so that is looking pretty good. So that is what it'll look like. So now, oops, my hands are all messy. We're going to use Oreos. I think this one calls for like 16. So just any plain old Oreos, or if you like the double stuffed ones, you can get those too. So we're just gonna scatter them across. I do 16, so 4 in each row, just like that. And just make sure that you kind of like push them down too. You want them to be all even. Just keep pushing them. And I'm not a huge Oreo fan, but honestly, like this tastes so good together. Am I missing one? Yep. Okay. So now that you have all your Oreos, just kind of pat around, make sure all the cookie dough is like where it needs to be. If you need to move it around a little bit more, you can. And just keep patting. All right, so that looks pretty good. So now we are going to get the brownie batter. And I might not use all of this just because it is a lot for this small pan. So now we are going to evenly kind of go over the edges first. And make sure you get your corners really well. I'm going to stop right there for a second. And then just kind of pat this around. Like I said, you want to get your edges and corners really well, just because if the middle is really like doughy and it has a lot more than the sides, then it will take a lot longer to get this cooking. So you want to just kind of go, like I just go in a circle sometimes, and just make sure all the edges and corners. I honestly would put more on the outsides just because it tends to always be a little bit lopsided. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Just a little bit to this side. And like I said, this is a great dish to have when you are going to a holiday event. It doesn't take that long. You cook it for about 30 to 40 minutes, just depending on what type of pan you use. So what I like to do is for 20 minutes, I will put a aluminum foil cover over this and cook it for 20 minutes, and then I will take it off, and I will then just let it bake for another like 10 to 15 until it's done. But if you put too much brownie batter, then it will not get done. So you just need to make sure you even out everything. And less is always better. You wouldn't want to have a lot more. So I'm just going to keep on evening it out. Okay. So this is what it should look like before you put it into the oven. It is like this, and it's going to feel really heavy, but that is fine. So what I like to do is just put the aluminum foil over it and then stick it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and then take the foil off and then let it cool for about like 30 seconds, and then stick it back in and then let it cook for another 10 to 15. So now this is what it'll look like. The top layer isn't that pretty, but I don't know if you can see the inside, but you can see the layers of the brownie, cookie, and Oreo. And it's a little bit gooey in the inside. That's how I like it. Thank you.
Myself when we doing our day.